Good evening. I'm Stacey Jackson, New York Program Director for the Screen Actors Guild Foundation, and I'm so thrilled to welcome you all here tonight for joint SAG Foundation and SAG-AFTRA New Media LifeRaft live stream event, Excellence in Web TV, Creating, Marketing, and Building an Audience for New Media. We're recording live from NYIT Auditorium on Broadway in New York City. For those of you tuning in online, hello. We encourage you to interact tonight and ask questions throughout the evening. You can do so by sending an email to livestream@sagfoundation.org, or you can send a tweet to @SAGFoundation or #SAGF. Be sure to tell us the city or state where you're in so we can give you a shout out. If you like what you see tonight, please visit our video gallery at sagfoundation.org for archived videos on a variety of career-focused topics. And now I'd like to turn the evening over to a very special guest, William Marshall, manager for SAG-AFTRA New Media. Let's give him a very warm welcome.
Thanks, Stacey. So I am Will Marshall. I am the manager of the New Media Department at SAG-AFTRA in Los Angeles. I just wanted to quickly let you guys know that we are committed to supporting the burgeoning new media industry, and we work every day to try to make it as easy as possible to work with the Guild so that you can use SAG-AFTRA members in your productions. We have a very simple new media contract. All wages and working conditions are negotiable between the producer and the performers. You can actually now sign your production online at our new production center, which is currently on SAG.org and soon will be on SAG-AFTRA.org. So it's very easy to sign up online. If you have any questions or if you're interested in signing up to become a SAG signatory new media production, you can email us at newmedia@sag.org, or you can also just tweet us at SAG-AFTRA-NM, and I will personally respond to you. And that's about it. I will be around after the event. If anyone has any questions, feel free to stop me and talk my ear off. But that's about it. So let me go ahead and introduce Josh Cohen, who is the co-founder and COO of Tubefilter, Inc., and he will be your moderator for tonight.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Stacey. We have a great panel for you tonight where we have some amazing panelists on stage who are online video professionals and very well-knowledged in the industry. But before we get to them, I'd just like to put tonight in a little bit of context for you. My first online video event was back in fall of 2006, and it was called Video on the Net. And it was a small component of this other conference called Voice on the Net, which dealt with voice over internet protocols. So like Skype or other kind of telephones without a telephone line. And so Video on the Net was a small component of that. And then there were two big takeaways from Video on the Net. One was the television's gonna be over in 6 months, which obviously didn't happen. And the other one was, it was the Wild West. So you could do kind of anything in online video. You could try anything out, and anything had the potential to be really successful. And I don't really think that, you might hear that Wild West metaphor a little bit now, but I don't really think it applies anymore. Certainly anyone's capable of trying out a multitude of different things in the online video and entertainment space online, and all of those things have the chance to succeed, and there's innovation we see every day. But there's also, I think, some best practices that have evolved, or some at least semblance of a framework of what works and what doesn't. And so that's kind of what we're gonna get to talk about today from all these different panelists. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Tubefilter and the Streamy Awards at the end of the introductions. But first, let's have everyone go down the line and introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Jane Hu, and I head up global creator programs at the YouTube Next Lab. It's a division of YouTube that focuses on how to make content creators more successful. Prior to that, I helped start a company that was a new media studio for Michael Eisner. And then prior to that, I worked at Disney.
Hi, I'm Josh Bernhard. I'm the writer and one of the executive producers of Pioneer One. It's a sci-fi drama web series, and I guess I came to web media from an independent film background because I found it was a more flexible format, and it kind of allowed me to engage with an audience and get immediate feedback, which was kind of an exciting thing. It just seemed like a more exciting space to be working in.
Do you have a clip for us, Josh?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. The clip we're about to see, I think, is the trailer for Pioneer 1.
Something fell out of the sky and spread radiation over my country.
An airliner?
That's what we think now, but we're trying to confirm that with eyewitnesses.
A satellite crashed 2 nights ago near Edmonton in Canada.
Do most satellites have people inside of them?
Someone got their hands on some old Soviet hardware and are using it to perpetrate an attack on the United States.
An attack on Montana, sir? We need an expert in here, someone who knows what they're talking about.
The Soviet satellite wasn't a satellite, it was some kind of capsule. We found him inside.
A little green men, is that what we're talking about here?
That kid might represent the key to your life's work.
I know you're not the brightest bunch, but NASA still works for you, don't they?
Hospitals in the area are reporting multiple patients with radiation sickness.
There are radiation concerns, and the quarantine is a precautionary measure.
There's more going on here than we're being told.
You're about to witness one of the most important discoveries in all of history.
What isn't your government telling us?
Sharing information helps. That's how science works.
Fortunately, it's not how governments work.
What we are talking about here is akin to Columbus, upon discovering the New World, deciding to turn his ships around and never looking back.
Spoken like the master obfuscator you are.
You were saying it's acceptable risk. Do you see now?
This wasn't some nut who strapped a bomb to his chest.
This is a mistake. I'm telling you, you are making a mistake.
I don't think so.
Sounds like a blast.
Is that a rocket joke?
Hi, I'm Susan Miller, and I'm the one of the executive producers and writers of the award-winning web series Anyone But Me, which has just finished its 3rd season with over 12 million views worldwide. And we are the proud winners of the first Writers Guild of America New Media Award for dramatic writing. I come from mainstream television and film. I was a consulting producer on the L Word and 30-something. And the opportunity to really do it myself, or ourselves in the case of Anyone But Me, because I work with a creative partner, Tina Cease Ward, was just, the timing of that was just right, because you can only wait so long for a yes or a no, or no answer at all. I also wrote and created another web series, which is branded, called Bestsellers. The clip that I'm going to show you is from our 2nd season, and there are actually 3 scenes we put together, and this got us our nomination, a Webby nominee in drama. So here it is.
Do I look like I would ever be a member of whatever it is you think I'm a member of?
The Dykes R Us Club? Cool t-shirt.
Oh wait, this isn't mine. I mean, look, lesbian isn't even spelled right.
I wouldn't know.
Well, this isn't what I was wearing when I left the house.
What do 2 girls do together anyway?
Really?
They tried this once before.
Breaking up?
Sending me to therapy. You know I'm gay.
I didn't know. How would I know?
Thought they might have said something. But no, they're too politically correct and all like, whatever makes you happy.
Why does that seem to piss you off?
You can't see through that? It's so phony. My girlfriend's dad doesn't have to say things like that. You know, he doesn't aspire to be the grooviest parent in the universe. He's just actually okay with it.
You have a girlfriend.
Surprised?
Well,
Coming from the relationships don't last kid.
Okay. So I'm just a bundle of contradictions.
I don't take any other kind of patience. So tell me about the first time.
I had sex?
I meant therapy, but I'm interested in hearing about that too.
Do you need a stamp? I don't even know if I have any stamps.
That's okay.
I miss mail. I would love to get a real letter again.
Well, actually, this is sort of for you.
Uh-oh. What secret teenage code did I violate this time?
You didn't do anything. It's just some things are easier to write than to say.
Viv, you can tell me anything. That's one of the perks of not being your mother. I don't have to take the blame or the credit for whatever it is.
Shit, man. Okay. So, you know Esther.
I'm starting to. I mean, she's here all the time.
The thing is, we're not friends.
Did you have a fight? I can't believe two people as close as you would stop being friends.
We were never friends.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we're more than that.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
It's special. You have something special, I see that.
I'm gay. We're gay. We're gay together.
Hey, my name is Jesse Cowell. I am the director of content for a company called My Damn Channel. We create a lot of funny videos for the web, and I'm lucky enough to work with the range from celebrity talent to kid with a camera who's kind of awesome and help try to make their projects better for the web. My background is I put a feature online in 2004, put another one online in 2007 that I paid for with every cent that I had, and I've had some colossal failures and incredible victories. And I'm definitely a DIY guy until somebody gives me a lot of money. So what I brought today was a project that we've just put another year into, which got released 20 minutes before we got here. So I'm crossing my fingers. You're going to catch me at the most vulnerable state of my entire life here. I feel like I should say I'm an alcoholic or something. So this is Status Kill, which we're incredibly proud of. And here's a promo for it.
Stop sending me invites. I'm never going to attend your party or your event or your thing. It's stupid.
Almost got it.
Susan's invited you to the event.
Oh my God, I'm 26 and getting a really old birthday bash.
I'm very busy at work right now. Can we please talk about this later? Online happy birthdays are completely meaningless. It's like saying, hey, how you doing? You don't care. You don't care.
Happy birthday, Sparky.
Do I even know you? You guys need to stop talking about what you're considering doing and just shut up and get out there and do it.
Thinking about writing a short story.
You an accountant, man. You ain't gonna do shit. Getting tagged in a photo that you might not want anyone else to see is ridiculous, and it needs to stop.
Because now I have your photos. You're tagged. You, and especially you, Martha.
Hating things on the internet is stupid.
New York Comic-Con's trying to be San Diego Comic-Con.
This
light. Get out of here, trolls.
Don't play video games with me on Xbox Live.
No.
I'm thinking of starting a Kickstarter campaign.
Do it.
What are you doing?
I'm signing out.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, this is too dangerous.
Check in. I gotta check in.
Sheila, is your cat okay?
Fine.
Jesus, Chris is like Maury Povich, mystery guest. Come on.
You have 60 seconds to untag.
Hi, my name is Nick Bernardone, and my job is with the NBC show 30 Rock, where I help write and edit the web content. In addition to that, I do a lot of projects on my own with a sketch group. We do web series, sketches, and what have you. So the clip I brought, I just want to put up a disclaimer. It's the most recent thing we've done, and it totally ruins the first season of Game of Thrones, which is my favorite show. So anyone who's yet to see, please earmuff it or leave the room. I don't want to ruin it for you. Thank you.
I will. I'll call him about that tomorrow.
Call him. You got to call him tomorrow, though.
You guys are talking about Game of Thrones, right?
No.
Well, you're watching it, though, right? You've watched them all?
We actually just caught up on the first 3 last night.
The first 3, oh, they're so good. They're so good.
They're great.
Ooh, episode 4 is epic.
That's all I need to say.
No spoilers. I'm not going to ruin anything. But all I'm going to say is,
be careful.
You know the little kid's paralyzed, so he's bedridden. And what happens to little vulnerable boys? They get assassination attempts.
Please stop.
Don't worry, he doesn't die. He's alive by the end of the episode. As a matter of fact, I watched the whole series and he doesn't die at all.
Stop. Or skip that episode. What are we doing for breakfast? Well, we got some eggs.
Oh, you mean like dragon eggs?
Chicken eggs.
Let me tell you something about dragon eggs. It's not a spoiler, I just want to talk about it.
Stop!
All I'm going to say, and it's just one thing.
Don't.
All I want to do is say one thing.
Don't.
Would you please let me say one thing?
Don't.
I just want to say one thing.
Don't.
Please let me say this one thing.
No.
No, you... Just let me tease you with this one thing.
Don't.
Just let me say this one thing.
No.
Just let me say this.
Don't.
I just want to say one thing.
No.
Just let me say one thing.
Yeah.
The dragons hatch in the season finale.
Leave the room.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Leave the room.
That's it. I like
Leave
dragons.
the damn
There's
room.
probably gonna be dragons in
Leave.
season 2.
Leave.
I've watched both, and there's
Leave the room.
I like dragons.
Leave.
I like dragons.
Oh my God. This kid is unbelievable. Yeah. I don't know how much longer I can live here. I can't. I live for HBO.
This is the last thing I'm gonna say. I promise. This is it. Last thing.
Oh my God.
You think you know television?
Don't do it. Stop.
You think you know?
Come on.
Then
Don't do it.
episode 9
Please don't.
happens.
No, it doesn't.
And I know you're gonna be guessing, but
No.
if
Please
your
don't.
guess
Please
is
don't.
that the
Don't
main
do
character
it.
Ned Stark dies, then you're right because the main character dies.
Well, at least we still have Walking Dead. Ricochet. Oh my God.
Read a book.
Thanks so much. And just to give you a little bit of background on Tubefilter and what I do, Tubefilter is more or less like a Variety or Entertainment Weekly or Hollywood Reporter, except instead of traditional film and television, we focus on online video and web series. And you can check that out at tubefilter.com. And in addition, we've been able to spin that out into a number of live in-person events, one of which is this thing called the Streamy Awards, which is a red carpet award show we're producing in partnership with Dick Clark Productions. That's going to take place at the beginning of 2013. And we just have a quick teaser we can show you for that.
Something fell out of the...
If we don't have a quick teaser, that's okay too. If we find it, we'll get to it later. Oh, here we go.
Slow down, you think you've got me figured out. Hold up, before you go and run your mouth. I'm not anything you think I am. I'm starring every movie on the silver screen. On every song you hear, you're gonna hear me sing. I'm gonna be a rock star. I'm gonna be a rock
Ladies and proud geeks.
I'm gonna cry at the Streamies.
We won a Streamy Award.
What's a
this
Streamy
week.
Award?
It's democracy at your fingertips and quite entertaining too.
This is what this night is about, to celebrate people not waiting for permission to make their art.
Thank you guys. You really are my heroes.
I really appreciate this.
Thanks so much.
Get excited for the Streamies!
We're excited for the Streamies. The Streamies are coming. The Streamies are coming.
Get ready for the Streamies.
Psyched for the Streamies.
See you at the Streamy Awards. The Streamy.
Very excited about the Streamies.
We are LMFAO.
And we are looking forward to...
The Streamies, baby.
So for tonight, we have some time. We have a lot to cover. I think we'd like to, how we're going to structure this conversation is we're going to go through kind of the same basic steps you would go through if you had an idea for a web series, and how that idea evolves from conception to production to distribution and beyond. There are a lot of different components to that. I think we have a really good panel up here that can talk about the different ways in which you can approach creating your own online video program, whether to do it on your own, whether to approach a studio, how to monetize, and kind of everything in between. And we'll also get to some questions that you submitted beforehand. But to start things off, I think, Susan, why don't you tell us how you came up with your idea for Anyone But Me and kind of how that started?
Well, first I should say I'm still a person who answers the telephone, although people have stopped calling. There's no one talks. But I got a call from Tina, and Tina Cecil Ward, and it kind of began there. And the timing was right for me. I just, it was in the zeitgeist. I wanted to write about young people. Our series is about gay, straight, multi-ethnic youth kind of struggling to find their way in the modern world and with modern relationships. And I was ready to do this. It was a complete learning experience, and I had no idea where we were going to get the money or what a web series was. But Tina was very determined as an independent filmmaker, and she just said, I want to shoot this by so-and-so, and I'm like, okay, let's go, if we can cast it right, because I believed that that was key. And I say this to you guys out here especially, and that actors taught me something. You don't sit and wait. You get up and you make work for yourself. And this was my real first experience with, I'm not just talking about writing a play or writing something and trying to sell it. I'm talking about making something happen. And I was so attracted to that process. So we had a little money for the first 2 episodes, credit card, stuff. But the main thing was that we found a cast, and we rewrote scripts. We developed characters first, and then we were so lucky to get, the 2 lead women that you saw, and they're young women, were just out of NYU, and some were out of, I can't think of the name of the school at the moment, but they were, 23 years old, and no one had seen them yet. And we looked for chemistry. We got it. We assembled a great little cast, and we shot the first 2 episodes. And one of the things was that Tina and I are perfectionists in certain ways. So we had to, we paid the actors, we paid everybody on the crew, and we promised ourselves that we would only do it if we could raise whatever we needed to raise to make it look good. And that the actors, and people ask, do they ever improvise? And the answer to that is no. And it was a drama. There aren't too many actually successful dramas on the web, certainly not at that time. But you know what's good about jumping into something that you know nothing about? You're not scared. You're not thinking about the risks, and you're not thinking about the marketplace. But as it turned out, we then, had some momentum. We were lucky because we got. I didn't know where are we gonna distribute this. Who's gonna see it? Not YouTube. That didn't seem right then. 3 years ago. We launched in December 2008. And we were, in a sense, lucky because the Writers Guild strike was happening, and someone told me, and I am a member of the Writers Guild, that there was something called Strike TV launching in LA during this time. And they loved what we had, and they launched us. And that was the beginning. Then we found somebody, a private donor, not a sponsor, who realized, well, first of all, that we had something special, and then it needed momentum. And so we went on. But I must tell you that first year, and I'll give this up in a second, but that first year really was almost episode to episode. Or we do 2 or 3 and then think, okay, are we going to get money for the next? And do we have the goods? And but we kept going.
Josh, for you, what did you and Bracy have an idea to create this series, or did you see a hole in the marketplace and you wanted to fill it, or how did your series come about?
Well, actually, I was just listening to Susan, and I could echo a lot of the same. It's kind of a very similar sort of a mindset where we went into it. But yeah, we did sort of see a hole in the marketplace. The Pioneer One. I mean, first of all, I mean, like you were saying, but the show is it's supposed to be a drama, but which there isn't. When we started this, there seemed to be a lack of dramatic web content. I mean, there are a lot of comedic web series, but we kind of wanted to do something that we wanted to see, and we thought, well, why not do a dramatic series that is something that we would want to see? But very similarly, I kind of had an idea, and I thought it was too, I don't know, there were always reasons why not to go forward and create something. So I had this idea, and I was like, well, I mean, it seems kind of, we'd need a lot of money, and we should really wait until we have this in place or that in place. But I told the idea to Bracy, and he was the one that sort of said, well, I mean, no, I mean, let's do this now. Why not? And I didn't really have a good reason why not, so we kind of went ahead and we did it. The other thing is that we distributed the show initially through a network. It's called Voto.net, which stands for Voluntary Donation, and their original model was that they would be releasing feature films, sort of one feature a month or one feature every other month, and they released my film The Lion's Share back in 2008, and I sort of saw an opportunity for serialized content, because my thinking was, well, if you're releasing a feature kind of once a month or on a schedule, there's room there for some serialized sort of content that would be a known commodity. So there would be a reason for people to keep returning to the website to check out for the new content, because they're coming for this show that they already know that they like. So I sort of saw an opportunity to create a show specifically for this specific venue, because I thought that it might kind of work, and it kind of did, I think.
I think it seems to be there's a recurring theme where it's obviously better to do something than nothing and have something up online and just do it. But in terms of wanting to be successful, you have, obviously anyone can just put their own passion project online. But if they want to get farther than just possibly living off from episode to episode, or getting even from episode 1 to episode 2, it seems like you want to fill a niche or go after some place. You want to think a little bit about the type of programming you're creating before you create it. So Jesse, like you said, you've been releasing kind of broken up films online since way back when. Has your approach to the type, to like Status Kill, or the type of content you're producing today, has that changed over time?
Yeah, it shifts, like, I would say monthly, because that wouldn't be able to do anything, but it shifts a lot. When I started for web, I started because there was a system where I was in LA, and I couldn't get anybody to pay attention to what I was doing. And that went on for like 6 years, and I felt like I had talent and this and that. It just couldn't seem to break through, and I'm not the world's best schmoozer. So I came home and was a broken person, and then I said, I'll put my movie online. It was 2004, and there was nothing like it, and I put it in WMV format and was paying $25 a month for the streaming to some guy who was nice to me, and I had a huge fan base. Like, this is the greatest fucking thing on the planet. People like me, it's shocking. There were no YouTube trolls. This is great. And then I said, okay, it's time to make a bigger film again. I did a vlog before there were vlogs. I didn't know what a vlog was. It was just me running around with a camera. And then I did Drawn by Pain. And that was very opposite than the approach that you guys took. I don't view it as the money, this and that. I didn't even care. I was just like, I want to be visible. And that, for me, it's defining what the parameters of your success are at first. So it's like finding your audience, but then what do I want to achieve? If my goal is to get a job, then I do X, Y, and Z to get a job, which eventually I did. But the goal for me was to go from somebody who's obscure nowhere to somebody who people respect. And so I just risked everything, put every dollar I had, and worked with some great people in my animator, who's sitting over there, Erica Langworthy, and she drew 15,000 frames of animation for me. And I just murdered myself, and it really nearly killed me to make this project over 3 years. And he interviewed me when I was in the middle of it, and I was running around begging people to take a look, which I hate doing as well, but it's just part of the process, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And the goal was just to achieve some sort of name doing something. But the parameters for success, if that was money, that didn't get any. And nobody really made any. There was no, we didn't wait, we just went. And we went with, and hopefully if you go with skill. And you've built that up over time, because that's a big factor as well. And we did drama back in 2006, we launched. And we did drama for 3 years. We won a Webby Award. We're featured on 22 pages of a book analyzing the project. It's a textbook. We're still dead broke from it. But you can search me and find that stuff, and so that means it's becoming somebody. And from there, then you start like observing the landscape, to get back to your question, and saying, what can I do next to sort of stand out again? And the landscape got really crowded fast. And I remember saying it when we were making Draw My Pain and talking to Erica. I was like, I kept saying, they're coming. We have to hurry. Because I saw it. And what I meant was, it wasn't just, I thought it was just corporations at first. I was wrong. Because YouTube came out. And YouTube made everybody a star. So it was the great democratizer, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Everybody's got a chance to be successful. And then the noise came. And so how do you then move forward? So that's the landscape changed completely. How do you move forward through this mess with skill? If you're making something that's highly produced, that's slick, that's passionate, how do you get in front of, and I mean this not in a derogatory sense, because this stuff is great too, girl on a webcam who's attractive that guys like, if that's drawing the eyeballs. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a place and a value for it. But how do you cut through the noise? So you have to reevaluate constantly and say, what is the story I want to tell? Who is the audience for this story? What's unique about my story? And what resources do I have that no one else has?
Yeah, it seems like some thought went into Status Kill beforehand. I mean, that literally has viral potential on it.
Well, thank you. Share it, please.
but I'm assuming that was a conscious choice.
Of course. I mean, that's, my friend Chris Domino and Erica and a lot of people who I've formed over the years of building a team. And team building is so important because they become your resources and they have to share your vision. And so when you do a project, the best thing you can get out of it is a team that then believes in it after. But in terms of Status Kill, of course, the idea was, I felt personally something I was passionate about, overload. Because I had to, pitch my thing to 1 million kids and people like me and be turned up or down and get 1 million invites a day. And it was starting to get to a point of like oversaturation. And I said, well, if I'm feeling this, others must be feeling it too. So I consciously went for something that I do a whole talk to a lot of creators that I work with. The main thing about your content is the thing I say over and over and over. It's not about, for me, for new audiences, the strategy has changed. I don't try to do serialized as much. I don't say it's not that it's not possible, but what you want to do is find something that's relatable. And that's the number one word. And relatable instantly. Because a new audience won't give you the time of day when there's 72 hours uploaded every single minute to YouTube. Unless you are able to find that niche audience, which is possible. It can be done. I mean, Susan's done it, and I'm sure and I did it with Draw My Pain. But the landscape has changed, and you have to be able to get something that grabs people very, very fast, in my opinion.
Jane, you probably see more content than anyone in this room dealing on the YouTube content team, but can you talk about kind of what advice you give to people even before they're creating their project about kind of the things they should be thinking about?
That's a good question. I mean, there's sort of two constituents that I typically get requests from. One are, I guess, more traditional media folks who, see this thing called YouTube and, don't really know what it's about and want to understand how they can, expand their presence and their brand and their revenue on YouTube. And then the other group would be, the 14-year-old kid or whoever who, kind of grew up on YouTube and wants to, I guess, also, same sort of thing, build a presence. I think for the latter group, I think there is just an element of because you grow up on the platform, you understand just inherently how it works, and it's not something that I think is really that intuitive. You know, it's this idea of not having as much privacy, of potentially not having as much sort of high production value, scripting. You know, a lot of the things that a bunch of these videos showed are just not things that people who grew up in that culture really think that much about. Doesn't mean it's not going to go in that direction, but certainly having that conversation with those people, you know, my advice is more, okay, you've got to think through a lot of the issues that I think to make good content you have to go through. You can't just put up a video blog and assume, you know, everyone's going to start watching it. For the first group of people, the more traditional media folks who come to my group, my advice is almost the opposite. It's just put something out there. Because what I find is a lot of times these folks come to me and say, how do I make money? How do I find a sponsor? How do I, you know, get this funded? And a lot of time online, there's just not going to be an answer to that anytime soon. And if you don't have a track record online, doesn't have to be YouTube. If you don't have a track record online, it's really hard to start that conversation with the right players. So that's a lot of what I try to tell people, which is not necessarily advice that people like to hear.
And I think those two categories can also, you can think of some of the content we're talking about today is in two categories of content. So a good example would be the type of stuff Nick is doing versus the other clips you saw from Josh, Susan, and Jesse, where Nick, and I'm sure it's informed by your work environment because you work on these 30 Rock webisodes that have very tangible characters, but not an overall narrative or story arc that's repeatable week after week after week after week after week. And so I think like that's a lot of what we see on YouTube, and then in YouTube and some of the other online video spaces, we see more of the other types of content we'd seen here. But Nick, can you talk about that decision to do that type of show as opposed to something with more of a story arc?
Yeah, sure. I guess I always wanted to make something like gigantic and long, like a movie or, you know, TV pilot. So when I first got to New York, we did this series where the 4th episode of this series with characters and arcs was a 15-minute action parody, and it's just like nobody cared. Like, so that's a great example of, you know, if you wanna impress like 400 people, do that. But not to take anything. Obviously, you guys have millions more views than anything I've done. But in my instance, you know, we found this really nice little thing called Channel 101, which accepts amateur web series. A panel of people vote on it, and then if it's chosen, you get to go and they screen your piece, and then it eventually makes it to the internet where the bulk of the eyeballs come from. But so my experience was, you know, if we really wanted to start opening up to something a lot of people would see, we had to do things that are short, quick, and that's it. Once you watch it, it's done. You never have to see the one before it, the one after it, it's just done, and it gets laughs. And so that's kind of what we started doing. Sure, 30 Rock is, the stuff we do over there is very similar. You know, you will have, like, you know, your Kristen Shaw, we did a couple with this year. You have characters that if you watch the show, you know who they are, but anybody can trickle onto this and just see this one little thing, laugh at it, get it right away, and be done. And that's, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, what gets the views, though. You got to do something quick and fun and solo, from my experience.
Can I jump in here, because I took your question literally at first, and so I stopped at, you know, the idea of it, and of course Jesse brought up a lot of things, and I just want to say you don't get to a 3rd season like that, and you don't get that many views like that, and it was a hell of a lot of work. It was all day, every day, because nobody knew us. It was me reaching out to everybody that I had ever worked with or knew, or you know, going online and looking at blogs and looking at what people like you were writing, and who might follow the show and who might look at it, and doing things I am not comfortable with either. As Jesse said, I don't schmooze, and I went up in a very traditional way, had an agent, you know, worked in theater and all of this. And suddenly realizing what it is to create, produce, and write a show. And I think Tina and I both wanted to do something that was not the you know, again, video diary or someone speaking right to the camera. As much as those, and I like those shows, but we wanted to try something. We really wanted to take the risk and try to do something that was in the tradition. It isn't television, but the best of. And I think television at its best is pretty damn amazing. And so we definitely took the chance of writing a scripted show and of doing it and trying to build an audience as we went, you know. And we thought we had a wide out audience. I mean, we definitely reached the gay press, the lesbian press first, and found that this underrepresented audience, and by the way, L Word was just ending at that time, but that was just coincidence. But they were hungry to see themselves represented. And also because it's a show, a multiracial show, multi-ethnic show. We had an ensemble of Black, of Latino. Actually, our lead, Rachel Hip Flores, is a combo of so many things I can't even tell you. Oh, and by the way, she won the Streamy Award for Best Actress, the last Streamy Award show that they had. But I just want to say that the main thing here for us was to keep going at a certain level. I was lucky in that I didn't need to make a name for myself, so to speak, but I was a complete unknown on the web. I mean, who's known in the beginning on the web? And what we also found is that we went to panels, you know, like this one, and met the people from Blip TV and went, oh my God, they're in New York too, and why aren't we on this panel? Well, because we weren't ready to be on it. And we met them, and we decided to distribute with them and to grow on YouTube. This year we were, in March, we were On the Rise Partners, chosen as On the Rise Partners on YouTube, which means we were featured, and it was a terrific experience. And so I also say, although you don't want to spread yourself thin in the beginning, you do want to expose yourself because you just don't know where your audience is coming from. But as soon as you do know, and we'll get into this in terms of building an audience, but I think you have to realize that the staying power of anyone but me, for sure, is because we did not shy away or neglect those people who responded to our show. They are part of the show. You know, they are the reason that we have been able to continue. I just wanted to talk to that.
Josh, can you talk about how you were able to sustain an audience season over season or episode over episode?
Yeah, we actually, for Pioneer One, it was kind of an unfortunate situation because we did the pilot, and I should also backtrack a little bit and explain the other network that we initially distributed on Vodo. Their whole model was using the BitTorrent file transfer protocol, so which is sort of you know, notorious because it's a popular file sharing service for media pirates. So initially we found our audience because we were getting a lot of attention because of the novel way we were distributing the show. So that got us a lot of attention initially, and then it wasn't until we had 4 or 5 episodes out that people started to actually write about the content of the show versus how the show is actually being put out. But we did the pilot, and then we got a lot of attention for the pilot because of the way that we put it out, and we had intended to basically shoot the rest of the season. It was a 6 episode season of full length episodes. So I mean somewhere in the neighborhood of about 40-45 minutes was the goal. But we underestimated how much work it was going to be. So we were in a situation where we were severely undermanned and working 25 hours a day and 9 days a week to get the next episode out. So what ended up happening, we really cultivated the a very small but very passionate fan base. And we realized along the way that it was kind of going to be a two-phase sort of a process. We were going to be doing the show for the hardcore fans, for the small passionate fans who we found and were willing to wait a month or two in between episode 3 and episode 4. And then the other phase, which was once the season was complete, and because it is so heavily serialized, it's I mean, you need to see episode 2 before you see episode 3. Otherwise, it's nowhere near the satisfying viewing experience that it's supposed to be. So we kind of anticipated, well, okay, for now, we're in a situation where we need to get the show done, and that's what we're doing. So we are going to promote and try and get as many viewers to stick with us. And we're lucky enough, I think, because the show has kind of a sci-fi overtone or undertone. I never really figured that out. But I think coincidentally, and this was not really by design, but we kind of realized that fans of sci-fi, when they see something that they like, they tend to latch onto it and be very kind of fervent and very passionate and very vocal about it, which was something that allowed the show to survive and get done from episode 1 to episode 6. So we kind of realized, well, okay, so we're making the show, we're getting it done for these guys, and then once the season is done, then we have an opportunity to do kind of a second wave where the show will find a new life for people who are just discovering it. But then the benefit there is that they would have the ability to kind of sit down and marathon all the episodes and see the whole story versus like a little piece, and then another piece would be trickling out and kind of like, you know, following the breadcrumbs. So so that's sort of the phase that we're in right now, and I think and it was certainly a learning experience. I think that there is a place for serialized dramatic content on the web, but if I were to say that we had kind of cracked the code about how to produce it successfully, I mean, we certainly learned a big lesson, but I don't know that we have all the answers yet. I don't know that anybody does.
Yeah, Jesse, you work with both of these at My Damn Channel. Right. You work with both of these types of programming, right? With serial programming, with daily programming, correct, and everything in between. So can you, go ahead, talk about
and not only that,
those.
but on a personal note, I'm much more in this camp than I am in this camp now, because the first time we did Status Kill, we did a 3-part series. And it was like 6 minutes each episode. It was 18 minutes total. It was 3 minutes of setup. It was, very sort of traditional in storytelling, much like I did with Drawn by Pain, which is a 3-year thing I did. And I realized it was for a new audience for the most part, because it's always for a new audience, unless you have them captured in one place. A la some huge Facebook subscribers or YouTube subscribers, wherever it is, and I didn't have that captured. I made a huge mistake. And this is not to pass judgment on the quality of my own content. I just made a mistake. And the mistake was, audiences now for new content, unless you have marketing, and it's a really question of 2 frameworks, marketed or not marketed. If it's not marketed, you have to do the marketing. If it is marketed, you can come in with a Sony Pictures and say, we've got a 36-part thing, and we're gonna put $100,000 of money in advertising against each episode to feature it on every single thing. People are gonna come check it out, and you have a larger chance to gain an audience. But when it's not marketed, you have to go back to the non-serialized approach. You don't have to. My opinion that I advocate for a lot of people is earn your audience by doing things like what he did. And so the new Status Kill is a complete break from that. Each episode is individually targeted about one thing about, say, online Facebook that I can't stand. Do an invites episode, do a happy birthdays episode. So it's a relatable topic. So it's the topic that moves, not the characters, not anything else. Character, I tell people, and this is a blasphemy, I'm sorry. Right, here it comes. Right, character, we've done this a few times before, which is always fun. The character, in my opinion, for new audience is secondary to either situation or relatable factor. Once you, and your character always, your character is a conduit, that's fine, right? Actors still have to do their job and be great. And the guy I have, Ayinde Howell, he's unbelievable. And so, like, in his performance, he carries my episode.
They are still creating a character
Absolutely.
there. Okay,
but the scene. So if somebody brings a piece of content to me, and there's no rules, we do have some serialized stuff too. So there are rule breakers, and that's what the web is about: being allowing things that are great to come through, no matter what they are. But as a sort of general practice and guideline, I prefer what is the situation, right? And the actor is the thing that sort of carries that situation. If somebody says, the pitch we get the most often at My Damn Channel is, we have two guys, they're unemployed, and they're in the house. Oh, they're out-of-work actors, too. And I'm like, well, what's relatable about that? No, but the two actors are so funny, and their characters are so good that people are going to love them. And I say, you know, they might be amazing, but if there's not something there to grab an audience, you know, they're not going to stick around to watch how funny. They're not going to let them develop. 20 seconds later, they're going to click away, unless it's marketed. Because if you're like what you did, which is amazing.
We didn't have a marketer. We did it all.
You did. That's what I'm saying. You achieved the same goal by going from place to, like I did with Draw My Paint. I went from Josh to Escapist Magazine, to my friends at Red vs. Blue, to anybody that would listen. And that's when I started to take off. When I started to go to panels and say, hey, look at this. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. We want it on our front page because it'll drive views. And how much can we pay you? We'll give you revenue share. I'm like, that's bullshit. Just give me your front page. I mean, this is the way that exposure machine worked. I became that 100% marketer, of which a company would just step in with money. So without marketing, I personally feel that you do things that are relatable and sometimes attached to other products.
I mean, the point is, first of all, we're not in competition. I mean, that's
No,
what's beautiful about the web and about the arts in general. I mean, come on, there's room for there really is room for everyone. But when you say something that's relatable, I think that what was relatable with anyone but me, even though I'm sorry to say it's a scripted drama web series with people who play characters. What's relatable was the stories we told. And the casting of it, and the characters that we made, and the chemistry that we made happen, and that the actors made happen in the very first episode, in the very first shot, actually. And that it grew, and people grew and came to it. But you have to have all those elements, and let's not forget writing. I have to speak on behalf of myself here. I mean, in Pioneer One, I mean, Josh and Bracy took this big chance of doing this long. I mean, we did 8 to 10 to 12 minutes episodes, and they did this huge. And you think, well, you're going to lose people that way. That was the thinking then. I mean, I went to Marshall Herskovitz when I first started this too for advice, because he had done a 30-something and had the only web series I knew about, Quarter Life. And I still have his notes. And one of the things he said to me is, make sure it's not over 10 minutes. So, I mean, like, okay, that must be a rule. It was just something he learned then. And there were a lot of things that have changed since then. But I just don't want us to get into I mean, if we're going to get into what makes a successful web series, we do have to pay attention to the context. What makes a successful comedy or contained, what you call it, what you just did up there, to me, what was successful about both those things, we'll see if they continue to be, but what made me laugh about those were in a certain way the same combination of creative aspects that are in our shows. They're just, maybe a different audience, but it's the writing, it's the topic, it's the actors, it's the point of view.
I agree with all that, by the way. Everything you just said. Not just to be nice. I think it's 100% accurate that all those things exist. By saying that this is what gets them in the door does not strip away all those other things that you just said. They have to be there. The craft of the acting, the craft of the writing. What I'm saying is to build new audience online without a marketing budget or a full-time person who is going to market, there needs to be something that gets them in my opinion.
Of course.
Well, it's also interesting because you know we talk about the audience. I mean, as if it's some kind of a monolithic sort of a thing. There, the thing about the web that's I think exciting and has a lot of different possibilities is that the audience is even more segmented than the TV audience than the film audiences. There are people who are looking for the bite-sized short form comedic content, but then also sometimes you're in the mood, and we weren't sure, but we were thinking that there must also be some people who also want to sit and experience kind of a more slow burn sort of a thing that, I mean, starts out with some kind of a hook or something that grabs you, but then once they're there, it's the character relationships and seeing the story develop and seeing the characters grow. So I mean, like you said, we aren't in competition here. I just think it's two different approaches that I think are can coexist, and at some point they may intersect. I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what that will look like, but I mean, I would love if to get the same kind of exposure for Pioneer One, like on, I mean, like the network. I mean, like a My Damn channel or like a YouTube, but I know that the kind of content we are producing is not necessarily what the audience of those networks is yet.
Absolutely. So just to add another layer, I think you guys probably aren't even coming at it from too far of a perspective. Back in 2006, I produced a show that was serialized, dramatic, and it was scripted, 80 episodes. Each episode was 90 seconds, and each episode tied to the next one. We released them once a day, every day at 4 p.m. And we, marketed that way and said, we did distribution deals, and we made sure people knew that you had to tune in every day at this time to get the next installment. And you don't really get to tell that much of a story in 90 seconds, obviously, but it was just this like quick, almost like trailer-like content. And it was for teenage girls, and they loved it. We had 20 million views. We still get views now. This was 2006. So I think what I would suggest is, experiment, try out different things. I don't think there's any one right answer to this. I think there's a model that has emerged as potentially successful now, but who knows if it's going to be successful in the future. And I know we don't want to say the wild, wild west anymore, but there's still so much that needs to happen. And, I think the more you guys try, and you guys are the ones who, have all this experience creating content, the more you guys try, the more I think you move the entire industry forward, which is something that we would all be very appreciative for.
But, also, it does depend on what you're doing it for, why you're doing it. As Jesse brought up, I'm sure each of us has, we have similar reasons and we have different reasons. I mean, you're either doing it to show your work so you get other work, which was not a reason for me. In fact, I always think I worry about that kind of thing, especially on the web. I think you have to, because it's such a commitment, you better want to do the thing you're doing and hope that it lives a long time, actually, and hope you get to do it for a long time at least. But that's what I needed from it. But I think that determines things too. I mean, to have a niche audience, which I still can't pronounce after all these years, help me. If you're lucky enough to have that because the thing you were writing, still comes from you and happens to connect to that market, that's a great thing. Because as Josh was saying, and I think that people are segmented, they want to watch certain things. They want to see themselves, or they want to laugh, or they want to cry, or they want to see two girls kiss, or they don't. But if they do, and you happen to be writing that, you're going to make sure those girls kiss once an episode.
I think one of the benefits in terms of the kind of argument versus if you're going to create something, whether it should be a series or kind of something more like what Jesse and Nick are talking about, and that's relatable and that can be repeated episode over episode, is the fact that that those can last a longer amount of time. There's no finite time period where this person has to fall in love with this person, or this person needs to get killed off, because there's no storyline to follow. And like Josh was saying earlier, if you didn't watch the third season of Pioneer One, it's difficult for you to watch the fourth. I saw on Twitter during the season finale, or during the season premiere of Breaking Bad, some person tweeted, "I just checked out the season premiere of Breaking Bad. Don't quite get it. This assumes a lot of knowledge about the backstory from the audience," which I think can be. So that's not a problem if you have these kind of one-off episodes. And I think kind of the best example of people doing that and doing that successfully is on YouTube. And Jane, you and your team have actually like codified the kind of best practices about how to succeed on YouTube. Can you talk about what works best for people there?
In terms of
just like I think there's part of the benefit of having it so you don't need to have a story arc is that you can have this thing that literally lasts an indefinite period of time, and you can maintain a certain level of consistency. And if you can maintain a certain level of consistency, you can develop an audience over that time period. And then people don't have to go back and get caught up on all the episodes. People can just start from wherever, and then they can become a fan. So also, if you're producing a series with a beginning, middle, and end, that series might only last for 3 months. You may just start to build up your audience by the time that series is already over. So if you have one of these other types of episodes and you're able to maintain some consistency, you can build up some audience over time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think consistency is the right word. I think we're a big proponent of consistent content in general, and I think messaging to people. New episodes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or new episodes every other Tuesday, whatever that schedule is, it is about consistency. And whenever someone tunes in and watches another episode, it should be consistent with the last one in terms of, length, in terms of structure, in terms of character. I mean, all the stuff that you guys understand. But, there are things that you can do on YouTube, tools that you can activate on YouTube that help promote this consistency in terms of the user experience. So allowing people to subscribe, annotating episodes, which means at the end, it doesn't have to be at the end, but a lot of people use it at the end where, it basically lets you hyperlink an episode to a past episode or to a future episode or to the beginning of the series, or to subscribe. And so that really gives you, the creator, the control over, okay, well, how do I want to direct these users, these new viewers who are coming to my show for the first time, to say, hey, I don't know what this is, but I'm really interested in it. Like, I should start from the beginning of this, or I should start from the best episode in this series, or whatever. But I think there's a lot of ways that specific tactics that you can use, and that's what our team really works on, is finding those tactics and teaching them to people. But I think in general, what we try to say is be consistent, be very active, be evergreen, and I think that, and go from there.
Well, I think one important thing is having a destination site. That is to say, your own website for your show, whatever it is, if you can, especially if you're going well, it doesn't really matter, whatever kind of show you have, because then people can come back, they can see your reviews, they can see if you have a blog on it, they can see Flickr photos of your show. You connect with them in this way. And the other quick thing is, I just read a piece about binge watching, and it seems to me that these days, it's quite easy to watch an entire season. I do this on television. I buy all the videos, or you stream the videos, and with web series, it's even easier, really. Right there, either on the destination site, or on YouTube, or on Hulu, or any of these, you have your choice. You can start from one, if it's, a long season already, if it's a well-known show. So I don't know. I don't quite see that as a problem for people who like to watch developing stories.
Right. No, then actually what you just said, we were absolutely counting on those people. other people who will, I mean, on a weekend they will do a binge watch of, a season. I'm also guilty of the same thing. I've watched an obscene amount of TV in a short amount of time, but so I knew and was counting on that there would be other people who would be willing to do the same thing for my show, assuming that the quality was there, that the content that it actually would deliver and be something valuable, which that was the goal, and that was the work that we were doing, and kind of a similar thing. I wanted to respond to something that you were saying about how the serialized or the limited number of episodes, you may be just starting to find your audience and the show's over after 3 months. But something that's kind of interesting, I think that there's traditionally been this sort of attitude that content on the web is sort of ephemeral. And it's actually very similar in my mind to the way that TV content was viewed at the beginning of TV. It's like, we have all of these very early shows from the 40s and the 50s that were just sort of lost in time because the attitude was sort of, well, who will ever want to see this again? But the nice thing about the web is that nothing really goes anywhere. I mean, once it's up there, it's up there. So while yes, it's true, we were probably just starting to find the audience for Pioneer 1, and all of a sudden there's no new content. Kind of like I was saying before, we were kind of taking into account and counting on sort of the long tail effect, the idea that as soon as the product is there, it's going to be there for people to find and experience through like a binge watch or something like that.
That's happened to me with Drawn by Pain.
Yeah.
Like people come in and be a rush and they'll watch them all, and I do the same thing. So just to sort of be clear, like I personally, I speak just for myself, I love serialized content. That's what I want to do. And the stories within what I'm doing now are self-contained. But the idea, the reason I'm a proponent of this is not to take away, it's not a versus issue. It's more of a long-term strategy of how you're going to build your audience. So if I create Status Kill just because it's what I've just done, and I have these sort of little mini chunks of them, right? I start to get an audience. I build out an audience. It's a build. A year later, everybody loves this character. Everybody loves what he's done in each thing. The organic demand will be there for me to give them a longer story. And I've seen it happen with Freddie W. was able to do it recently by taking all this short form stuff with a lot of IP from other places, and that's a tool that people use to get audience, which is what is relatable, doing sort of a modern warfare take and this and that draws them in. And then 2 years later, he does Video Game High School, which is a 12-part series that's all serialized and does 3 million hits an episode. But I promise you, if you came out with Video Game High School with just right now, just uploaded to YouTube, you'd be lucky if you got 30 to 50,000 views an episode. And so it's a build, it's just a strategy. The desire is to make passionate work that's character-driven and well-written. That's what we all want. What I'm talking about is the reality of especially the YouTube landscape of 72 hours of content a minute and people who don't have the time or the desire. And you just have to look at, first thing I did was I took a deep look at myself. I'm a serialized guy. I want to tell stories. I look at content, I go to it. If I don't know what the hell it is in 10 seconds, right? I do it. So if I do it, they do it. And I ask other people, how do you feel about this too? Why should I invest? I don't know what this is. That's what happens. So I'm not saying it's not great,
but I do feel you are telling people that they shouldn't indulge in that because it's not going to work.
I did it for 3 years.
Okay, well, so I'm just saying, Jesse, there's no point in us being opposed to each other. Let's talk about the things that work for us each in our own.
I can totally give this over, but what I'm saying is there's no opposition here. What I'm saying is that there's a build to where you are.
There's a build in everything.
Here's mine.
There's a build in everything.
No, I actually just really quick wanted to draw a quick parallel that, it's not too far from what actual television is, too. I mean, there are two very different types of comedies out there. There are, 30 Rocks, but then there are also CBS comedies that you could literally turn on and know exactly what you're watching, and it doesn't matter if it's episode 7, episode 80, the 1090 system. The Tyler Perry is what everybody want. All the networks really want is like something that they could have 90 episodes where anybody could watch anything in there anywhere and totally get what it is. And, sure, 30 Rock wins awards, and The Office, all those kind of shows do really well critically, but the ones that actually get the most attention are those CBS multi-camera shows. I think this is a very comparable conversation to the self-contained internet 2-minute videos versus the story web series that you have to watch 3 to get 4.
Yeah, but I think one difference is for the online medium, specifically for YouTube, it's so easy to switch. Channel switching on a television set is still complicated. You still have to scroll. You don't really know what's coming next. On YouTube, your video is 1/4 of the screen. And right next to it are these 10 other videos that people want to watch that are named something really interesting, that have an interesting thumbnail. And people, like Jesse said, takes them a couple seconds and they hop off. What we tell people is, hook your audience within the first 15 seconds. Doesn't mean it can't be an interesting, scripted, well-produced show. It just means you got to have something in the first 15 seconds that gets people interested, that gets people to want to stay on there. It means you shouldn't be doing 15 seconds worth of, credits, which, we see sometimes. We're like, well, what are you doing? And nor should you really do end credits, even though that's, I think that's a little less of an issue. But so that I think that's more for me, what we try to tell people is not sacrifice the quality of content. It's, understand how to create content for your audience.
I think everything Jane's saying is absolutely essential to know. I don't disagree with any of it. I mean, I think you have to grab your audience no matter what kind of thing you're putting on. If it's 15 seconds, fine, I accept that because of the length and because of the competition. But here's the other thing. No one's brought this up yet, and which is, how do you distinguish yourself among the multitudes? I mean, that's important because not everyone here wants, some of you want to be in or write scripted, some don't. I mean, let's not ask you to jump the fence on this. But to follow those, and by the way, the YouTube kind of, the thing you guys came up with to follow is excellent to have. But how do you distinguish yourself? You need your own voice. You need to work with people, I think, who want what you want or are professionals, let's put it that way, are really good at what they do or committed to what they do, whether you pay them or not. I mean, if you can't and they're agreeing to work with you, that's fabulous. But to distinguish yourself, you also have to stand out, and you have to do things to stand out. And that's a myriad of things, to keep people engaged, to reach out to people. We have Anyone But Me Tuesdays, because we didn't always put something out every week. We did it every other week when we could, pretty much. So Anyone But Me, we put on a Tuesday, and when we didn't have an episode, we put something else out. It's another piece of video, whether it was behind the scenes or something related to the show, obviously. We also got someone who was a fan club. She organized a fan club. So she took a lot of the slack, too, and put out stuff for the fans to look at and did interviews. And, of course, we pimped out our actors to do interviews all the time. And luckily, they are attractive, smart, and funny people, and that helped as well. But all I'm saying is you've got to know, first of all, what you're in it for. Then follow all the advice or the and well-founded advice that everybody is giving. But there's no reason to say this works better than that, because if you do that, you will never make a mark. I'm sorry. I mean, in my life, I wouldn't change any of the plays I wrote that other people might say, well, what's that? That doesn't look like a television show. That's not a well-made play. That jumps time. That, cuts out the fourth wall. That, if people told Tina and me, no, you better not write a serialized show, we wouldn't have won also the IAW TV Award for Best Writing, or Clicker.com, or TV.com, or After Ellen, and on and on. And I say this proudly because, we just aimed to do the best job we could with this thing that we wanted to write. You can write more than one thing too, like Jesse has. I mean, you can write. I wrote a comedy, Bestsellers. It was scripted, and it was the same characters, different, entirely different, multi-generational show, and promoted differently because it was branded. It wasn't in my hands. Anyway, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think that, basically at the end of the day, and I'm sure we all will agree to this to some degree, but we kind of started doing Pioneer One because, like I said at the beginning, it was the kind of content that we were looking for and we wanted to see. So and I'm not saying that this is the best advice, but we sort of didn't really take that much into account the where it was going to go and what their specific audience was looking for. There was an element of that, but that came subsequent to the decision. Okay, we want to do this show, and we'll find a home for it somewhere.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about independent content creators creating their own programs and self-distributing them online. The online video industry is fast becoming a multi-tens of billions dollar industry. And so there's lots of activity in the space. And some of the activity is that there are these networks that have developed, or these studios that are producing online original programming and content. Jesse works at one of them, My Damn Channel. Jesse, can you just delve a little bit more into My Damn Channel and how it kind of works with content creators and works in the online video ecosystem?
First thing is I set out parameters of things they can and can't do. Not at all, no. Well, there's several different ways to work with us, so let's talk about that first. And we have a multi-tiered approach of doing it nowadays. We've really expanded that. My particular side is the original content arena. So what I do is I work with creators like you guys or people who are starting out, and what I look for is people who are talented and things that I think will resonate with an audience, but especially a YouTube audience because we're one of their content partner initiative. So that is a very distinct world, and a lot of what we've talked about here applies to YouTube because it's its own culture, and which is different than Hulu, which is different. So I sort of have to put that caveat forward because it is different when you have a destination site that you're able to push traffic to, and you're getting it through a blip player. But YouTube, when pushing to that, there are some practices, that the player or the handbook addresses, and that we have other ones that we advocate on top of that we feel help shows in that very particular universe. So I deal with content creators. They come in, they show me something, and I say, and I try to, because I'm a filmmaker, so I'm very, very sensitive to other people. And my boss often calls me the Gandhi of, right? It's terrible because I care so much, it's almost harmful because I see myself as them. And I want them to win, desperately. And I want them to get that attention, and I want their things to be a little more crafted and the sound to be a little better and the shots to be a little more composed, or at least some more thought that goes into it, and the actors to really sell that thing that they're trying to sell, and the voice to be unique. And so I try to work with them if I can, if there's time, every single one I can. I'll take as many meetings as I can to try to give all of these years of experience of doing all this different content and seeing where other people failed and succeeded. One of the best things was watching those successes and failures for different types of content.
But as a content creator, why would I come to you in the first place?
Well, we represent a very particular type of comedy. So if that's the vein of thing that you do, then we're the type of place. Okay, so for instance, there are advantages to going off on your own, right? Especially in the YouTube model, blip model, you can make money. If you can get it sponsored here and there, you can have dollars that are coming directly to you. You can build out a DVD, a T-shirt line, this and that. But sometimes you don't want to do all that. And a lot of times they need the help in making their product better. They just do. And it sort of seems presumptuous or arrogant to say it, but you form a relationship that's a good bond and not like a network douchebag one, and the product actually gets better. And they see it and they want more of it. My suggestions are always like, here's a suggestion, and I'm very specific. At second 16, 2 frames are too long to beat. It's not like, this isn't funny, make it better. Here's some specific suggestions. If they're not working, throw them out. So A, we can help you on the development side. Then B, we can help you on the marketing side. We're masters at getting press, so we can help you on the press side. Who wants to have to hire a press person? We have a team of people who help with the art, and we'll help put your product into the world, and then we'll surround it with other products that are successful. That's very hard for a new individual to do. I know because I've been that individual, and when you're alone, it's really hard. So you come to us, you lose stuff. Sometimes we give you money, so there's money that comes. Sometimes we don't, and you have to give up stuff. It depends on the particular circumstance. But you gain a lot when you join a company that's not trying to rip you off. And I will never mention names, but there are some. And you have to be very careful what you sign. And when I did Draw My Pain, there's a lot of contracts that are like, we're taking X, Y, and Z, and you really are gaining nothing. If they promise you a lot, you really got to do your homework as an individual, especially if you're working your ass off. What are they taking from me? YouTube is great in the way that they don't take anything from you. You can put it up, you can take it down, and it's no problem. That's your right. But there are others, be careful.
In terms of not getting screwed, I think it's better off now than it used to be just because there's a competitive marketplace. So if My Damn Channel is interested in your content, more likely than not, someone else probably could be too. So you can see a couple different deals from a few different people.
It's possible if you get out there, and a lot of, look, this is one of the points that I think is unfortunate, but it just is. It got crowded very fast, and it's hard to get meetings, just like it was in Hollywood. It's not as hard, which is great. And you can do something to stand on your own, which will get the attention. But you still need influencers and people who can make things happen for you to have it happen. And that sucks in the way of like just a purist standpoint of like, we just wish that somebody made something great and just the cream rises to the top, and that's just the way it is. And that's not true. And people who are successful, it just happened for them, they'll always tell you it is because it happened for them. But I've seen countless examples of where it hasn't. So you need to be getting out there, getting people to notice you, meeting people, and being number one thing I tell everybody is be passionate. Put what you give a shit about on your sleeve and say, I really care about this. Because people are attracted to passion. And if you can say, I really put my heart into this, and it shows in it, people will want to meet you. I will, for sure, because that's what I do for my own work.
At My Damn Channel, what percentage of new content you're creating would you say comes from things you've seen online that then you've gone after the content creator versus incoming pitches?
Almost all incoming pitches. I'm just trying to think. Well, we have the original content side, then we have a vlogger network, which comes from a lot of things that exist already, and are really talented people who get brought into our network of vloggers. Then we have a blog network. I mean, it's a lot, and then we have a live show. But from what I do, I prefer for it to come in. And I prefer for usually no one else to have seen it. And a lot of times we can't take stuff that's in season 6. Because, a lot of our interest sometimes is in building out the intellectual property itself. Because we'd love to see this thing turn into the next whatever. And it doesn't have to be a TV target or a movie target. It could be, this is the next Angry Birds in a way. And somehow it's going to turn into toy sales that will benefit, hopefully, the content creator. And sometimes it's branding content. So it comes in and we keep it close to vest and we pitch it out to Coke or whoever will take a look at it. Because we want to find a way to, A, as a company, make money, survive, do well, and B, provide money for a content creator to be able to create their work in the way that it should be created.
So Nick, when you're creating your original series, did you have a thought about trying to pitch this around to different to some of these new media studios, or did you say, I'm just going to put this up? And then why'd you make that decision?
Well, with series, it's a little different. I've only done 2 different web series that are like actually episodic, and both of those we just did to make it. If people were gonna like it, great. If not, the goal was never to like go out and get like money or to have 1 million people see it. Those are the 2 series that landed at that small Channel 101 venue, which then kind of opened up a few other doors where people had seen it and been interested in different things. Mostly, actually, believe it or not, the interest that was gained from the web series usually was, oh, that's really funny, but like, why don't you guys, like, it's me and 2 other guys for the most part, they were like, why don't you 3 guys just make like sketches and like, you know, something where we can just put up on the website. And just to tack on what Jesse was just talking about, the stuff that we put up on our own and the stuff that, or our Channel 101 was getting like pennies worth of views, like all under 10,000 for sure. The minute that we started going, the first thing that ever got into the hand of like something that's very similar to My Damn Channel, there's a comedy website that we do stuff with. The second they posted up was when we saw like a crazy increase because they just have the resources to get views and get eyeballs. And that went from like, you know, under 10,000 to, you know, 50 times more.
Are you reticent to name that website?
No, sure. It's called crack.com. That was one that our first kind of big view load came from. And then we actually haven't posted much to our YouTube site since then because then you get into the whole exclusivity. They'll want it on theirs before you can put it on yours. I'm sure My Damn Channel does similar exclusivity rights. But yeah, I mean, it's just you got to weigh what you're really looking for. Do you want views or do you want to just have like a calling card of like your web series that you want to send out and use to market yourself and show what you can do?
So Susan, now I'm assuming you're thinking of different online video web series to pitch to different creators or to pitch to different studios or networks. Since the finale of Anyone But Me, have you been? And then how has that process been?
No, I haven't been. I don't want to pitch to anyone. My agent in Hollywood used to call me Sandra Koufax, if you know Sandy Koufax, the famous pitcher. And because I did do that, and I was lucky enough to be able to sell my pitches to write screenplays and even pilots, and I did well, but that's an exhausting process, and I'm surprised, and I do have to say this, you know, I love My Damn Channel I think Rob Barnett is fabulous, and I think, you know, I would bet that being in a room with Jesse, you know, helping you sell your pitch would be a great thing. You know, lots of people over time came to us at Anyone But Me, but no one really helped us. They were well intended, but did not. I'm thinking about what's next for me. I have a commission to write a new play, and that's something I'm both excited about and terrified of, because the freedom to self-produce and do what I just did after 4 years on the web is like something I don't think I'll ever experience again. But it's a good question, Josh. With all the success of Anyone But Me, there are no. Tell me if I'm wrong, Josh. There are no sites like a My Damn Channel for dramas. There are no. I mean, this is a truth. I hope that will change. I myself would love to pitch YouTube on such a thing that maybe Tina and I could do. Because there's some wonderful dramas out there, but it is a hard road. So no, I haven't pitched anything. I won't say no to that either, though. I don't. Who knows? Maybe I'll come in to Jesse with a very, very funny, contained.
No
idea.
characters, no writing, no passion,
Nothing at
Make
all.
it suck. It's gotta be the worst thing ever made. That's what we want at My Damn Channel.
But I mean, these guys. It could happen.
So only one minor note is there actually are companies, studios that are focused on dramatic.
Tell me.
Yeah, so John Avnet is doing Wigs, which is a channel purely for scripted, serialized content, and he's one. John Avnet, Wigs, WIGS, and there's a bunch of other ones that we do as well.
Will you tell me afterwards, because I know about that one, but what I've seen is not anything that I would. I mean, it's just it doesn't. it is scripted, but it's not the kind of thing that I write for. I don't need to write for something just to get on. I want to bring my voice to it. I don't think that is, but I'd love to know who else, because we are YouTube partners, and most of our views come from YouTube, even though we're Hulu partners as well. But so yeah, if you can help me with that, that would be great.
I'm just looking through some questions we've gotten from the audience and from online. Here's one, Jane. I think this one you're particularly well suited for this one, just because you see the types of people that do really well on YouTube and the types of things that don't do so well. This asks, do you feel it's more important to deliver content that is great versus marketing content very well? There's only so many hours in the day, especially if you're one person creating something, and if you have the trade up, if you have to, something's got to give. You can't do everything 110%. So in terms of marketing versus a minimum content threshold, what do you see that works?
I think, unfortunately for now, there's just not enough focus on marketing, I think. And marketing doesn't have to mean, traditional marketing. It doesn't have to mean spending money. It means, it could just mean engaging with your audience, responding to comments, staying on top of your social media, which, is sort of the new form of marketing. And I think a lot of times people will put, their best product up on YouTube or wherever and just assume people are going to find it. And it's a shame, because it's really good stuff that no one's going to find unless there's a marketing effort involved. So I think if I were to choose one, I hate saying this because I'm also very much a content person. I think it's, that's a big missing component right now, and sort of a low-hanging fruit for people who want to get more views.
I think, My Damn Channel and myself as well, I think we share this point of view. Marketing is obviously massively important, and we do what we have to do to get those views. But as a company and as a person, I have foregone a lot of that marketing effort to try to stand out and make greater stuff. And we know that by creating more parody, by creating things that borrow from other people's intellectual property, those are marketing tools that bring people in the door. As a company, of course, you have to do some at some point, or you don't get eyes in that universe. It's just the way it works. Personally, I've refused for 7 years. And so it's cost me dearly. But I refuse because I want to make great original IP, and I have to believe that at some point, great original IP will rise with the right hooks.
I couldn't agree more with Jesse on that.
Yay! I did it.
But he's really saying what I said before. I can't live any other way. This is my life. If in my lifetime certain things don't happen, they don't happen. So I have to make what I think, I won't use the word great, I just have to make something that I feel proud of, whatever that is, in whatever media it is, whatever genre, whether it does well or not, financially, because that's how I'm built, and that's what I would tell everyone. I don't want to live as any other way, period. But we're here to give you practical advice, but it's important to know where that practical advice comes from so that you can make your own choices.
Yeah, something actually that you just reminded me, I don't think we've actually brought up yet, is that it depends on what you want to get out of the experience of creating content and putting it out on the web. For me personally, I come from a background where I think of myself primarily as a writer, and I want to write. So the idea of being the writer of a web series where the episodes are only a couple of minutes isn't something that for me is very attractive. So that's not to say that that those programs aren't valuable. Not in the least. But for me, when I set out to create something, I want it to be kind of like, heavy on the writing side. So it tends to come out as content that is longer form and serialized and the kind of story that I want to tell.
This is a question that I hear all the time. What is a suggested length of each episode? And it varies, but I'd like to hear, Nick, why don't you go for an answer?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for comedy, like obviously these, I'm getting, how long are you guys episodes? Like 10, you were saying? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Ours are, they average, I mean, they go from 9 to 12, and then our finales are often 15. Our season.
And similar for you, I'm guessing?
No, I'm not the guy to be. Yeah, I'm not the guy to.
20
be answering
minutes?
This. No, it was about like on average. Well, we were shooting for about 40 minutes an episode.
Oh, so it's just a TV show. It's like
yeah.
Okay.
I could hear the gasps in the audience. Yeah. No, I'm not the guy you want to talk to about this.
But yeah, I mean, I guess where the reason why I asked that is because it's very clear to me where your guys' audience comes from. Like you guys have very specific target audiences that will come and watch 40 minutes and 10 minutes, 15 minutes. For comedy, especially if it doesn't have a star, I'm sure Jesse can attest to this. Like if you have Will Ferrell in your web series, probably everyone's going to watch it just to see what Will Ferrell's going to do. But if it's just, relatively unknown actors or unknown writers, directors, I would personally say that anything over 4 minutes is probably excessive because we even had a hard time getting people to watch the 5 minutes. And if you want my genuine answer of what I think would probably force people not to click is 3.5. I would actually say anything over 3.5 for comedy is probably going to dismiss at least half your audience. For me, what I've noticed.
I think the answer can actually be a little bit more nuanced. You see everything online there's this great YouTube channel called 5 Second Films, which is what it sounds like, 5 Second Films, and they're all fantastic, and they have the added benefit where if something is that short, you don't care if the first 3 sucked. Because it's not a huge time investment. You'll watch more. And I think there's a level of kind of time investment and trust there, where if you tune into a program online, if you tune into a traditional television program on NBC, there's a certain level of trust. NBC is a big brand. This has been vetted. You're going to watch the whole episode and then make a decision about whether you want to watch it or not. If you tune into something online, from a content creator you haven't heard of before, that trust isn't there yet. So a kind of theme that we've been seeing as web series get into their second and third seasons, they'll start out on the first season with 4, 5, 6 minute episodes, and then the audience will tell them they want to see more. So then they'll come back the second season with 10, 12 minute episodes. There's this great show called Bite Me, produced by Machinima, that's exactly what happened. And talking with some content creators, that's one of the biggest compliments they can get, I think at least, is that, I wish there was more of this. Every time an episode ends, it seems to end too early. But I think at least when you're starting off, it's better to hear that than, holy shit, this lasted way too long.
We heard a lot of that. In fact, it used to piss us off, really. Because don't you know that every page costs money? But we got a lot of, and then the second season, I think it calmed down, which was that, I get this now too. I get the form, I get, you're packing so much in that, but they always wanted longer episodes, for what it's worth.
I mean, we used to function before I joined the team, which was, Rob would always tell everyone, as long as it needs to be successful. We've changed a little bit. We've changed a little bit because it's not a time, even though we might say 2 to 4 minutes is probably the range. It's not a time, it's a pacing issue. I'm fascinated by structure. I've written 7 features. So I'm fascinated by what structures a screenplay and how can you be creative within the parameters of what makes a screenplay work and how can you bend the rules when you can. I'm also fascinated by how that applies to web video. And like, when do they get in? And that's why these little conventions, I'm starting to see structures pop up. And there's a lot of different ones. And that's kind of what I alluded to before. What is a structure? Not a cheap formulaic thing that robs you of creativity, but what is something that really can get an audience in and out in a certain amount of time? Some things can break the rules, like a Batman to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. And it depends on what it is. If it starts to feel long, it is. If it's 4.5 minutes, but it's nonstop fun, and then it still makes me want to share it after I've seen it, it's perfect. But it's pacing because it's paced fast for comedy. It can't let up, right? Even if you have Will Ferrell on it now, that doesn't matter. We've had celebrities in videos where it felt long. And that's just being real about it. And even their cachet doesn't buy it. Because after 30 seconds, you're like, oh my God, this sucks, I want to leave. And that's it, I'm bored. So the second you hit that on board button, it's over. 2 to 4 minutes is a sort of standard-ish. And you really want to go 2 to 3, and sometimes even 1.5 for some quick, sort of very focused, targeted joke. But beyond that, if you can make it awesome, then you get a little more time.
Here's another question we have that's come up a few times. Someone has a kick-ass idea for a series, but not necessarily the funds or professional equipment to make it happen. With the democratization of media and the idea where everyone has a camera and everyone has kind of free distribution by way of YouTube or other online video platforms, it seems like anyone with an idea should be able to execute that idea and make it happen. But do you have any ideas for people that don't have, and I know we've all been in this situation, and in lieu of maxed out credit cards, what one could do?
Yeah, for me, I'm the master at like doing a lot with nothing because I never have anything. So I'm going to give you the best advice I ever got. First, my teacher a long time ago said less is more. So, there's a way to represent more with less, and it's even better than trying to do more. Secondly, something that's massively important, and remember this, some people may disagree. You have a screenplay that's very written out, and you have this has to happen, this has to happen, and this has to happen. The day you get rid of this has to happen, your stories will get stronger, not weaker, because you have a fluidity to them. And you start looking at, I have a script, an idea, a core idea, and then say, what resources do I have in my life? That's awesome. And then I'm like, well, that actor's incredible. And I have somehow, you looked at the Status Kill trailer. It's got trucks and ATVs and, factories, and that's my friend Justin here, his family is upstate New York, and they let us do this, and this guy wants to ride around an ATV. I'm like, okay, that guy. And you just figure out a way to take every great resource you have and somehow throw it into your thing. And yet, have the skill as a writer and be fluid enough to not bastardize your story, but somehow make it inclusive tonally. If you focus on tone as opposed to specifics, you can maximize your results by using everything in your life that's strong.
There's a good anecdote too. I heard the Kent Nichols, one of the creators of this web series, this old school web series that was one of the first popular ones called Ask a Ninja, say. And him and his writing partner originally wanted to create this crazy story about this eccentric ninja that was fighting dragons, and it was going to contain animated elements. But then they decided, what can we do with like editing equipment that barely works, a broken camera, and a black backdrop? And it was quirky ninja Q&As, and the hope was that would eventually develop into whatever they wanted to create. But I think it was so successful for them in the first place that they didn't quite get to that second part. So how does this all work with social media? What kind of tactics do you all employ, and is it even worth should I focus all my attention on interacting with a YouTube audience? Should I focus it on Facebook, or kind of if I were to choose kind of one social media avenue to get the word out about my series, what would it be?
I don't know if there's just one, but I would say that for us, Facebook and Twitter have been key, and I don't think that's unusual. I don't think that's an unusual thing. We always try to respond directly to as many comments and people through social media, and also direct email as possible. Obviously, there's sort of, but you develop your own criteria once the amount of it reaches a certain level that it's not humanly possible. Like you could spend your entire day responding to every single thing, but I think one of the things about the web that's always been very attractive is that the wall between the content creators and the people consuming the content is, it's not a wall. There's an opportunity for a dialogue and communication between the audience and the creators. So I think that, and especially for us, because the audience for Pioneer One was small but vocal and passionate, to court that, and to foster these relationships with the viewers and different communities who are into the show. But I think is absolutely key and necessary. It certainly was for us. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I think social media is essential. At least it has been for us. And I think, just to give you an example of something I answered on Twitter, or I responded to on Twitter, and the person then wrote, "Oh my God, Susan Miller just tweeted me back." And it was like a really big deal, which I was moved by it, really, just because we don't think that, but yet we do know it on some level, and we've tried to do it, especially because we have a youth-oriented show, although our YouTube demographics tell us otherwise. But I don't know that there's any one. Twitter and Facebook, and then sometimes I go to other sites that like After Ellen and She Wired and things like that stream us to their fans, and they respond with comments. And also we have comments on our website now, which we didn't the first season. We didn't know how to do it. So they do it, and we can now respond to them. And it means a lot. It also means, though, that you have to read the comments. And, some of them are upsetting. And you just want to, most of them are not, thank God. But, it's just, I think it's really, really part of the package. There's no way around it. And it's kind of actually gratifying in a lot of instances, right?
But what's the best one is a hard question to answer. It's wonderful. It's amazing that I can connect with people. I think that's the greatest gift in the whole world, is having an audience that I can interact with. And I've gotten 3-page emails saying, you changed my life, and this is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. You know what I mean? But that, it sort of comes with the territory. Some of it I hate. I was just complaining to them about 3 YouTube comments, which made me sad before I came, which is ridiculous. But at some point, you find a way to divorce it. But that's the point of this is, which is the best? Which is the best? You have to be careful, because I would say for a while, YouTube is a very particular audience, but they're taking a lot of steps to sort of improve the entire process. So having subscribers there is becoming more and more valuable, I think, every day for our type of content. But Facebook is a dangerous one. And I'm pushing very hard for a status kill. See how I keep saying it? Because this is what you have to do when you get on stage. Status kills, until somebody likes my page, like my page. This is what you're supposed to do. This is part of the process. I fucking hate it, but it is what it is. I want people to see my shit, and this is how you do it, social media. Point is, Facebook is very dangerous. Facebook is dangerous, and I'll tell you exactly why. Any business that controls communication that you don't control, that's why destinations are important, but impossible sometimes to maintain, is they can make a change. And you can put in thousands of hours, and that change will completely destroy your business. For instance, Facebook, I have, 2,200 likes on my project page, which is not a lot, but it's 2,200 people who opted into getting, updates from me. Facebook now says, our algorithm is now going to lower the amount of people that opted into your fan page's ability to get reached by your message, even though they opted in. But there's a handy little promote button that costs me money to reach people that opted in. Now, I'm not mad about it. It's not a thing to be mad about. It's to understand that big business is controlling this, and if you are using their service, they can shift it on you. So you have to just be very aware of which service it is you're using, and you really go to the service where you are the most popular. So if you stick on YouTube, you're big on YouTube. You stick on Twitter, you stay to Twitter. But just be aware that you need to be able to be fluid with that people, those group of people. The best, and this is the oldest, is always email, because you have direct access to that person. But it's the hardest thing to get from people, because nobody wants to opt into getting spam.
Jane, and specifically for YouTube, you'll hear about lots of the top people on that platform say how they engage with the audience or interact with the audience a lot. What exactly does that mean? Like, what are they doing?
A lot of what people have talked about so far, it's responding to comments. Some people, it's even talking directly to the camera. I think there's that's a very popular a popular way of communicating. Response videos, so particularly, looking at comments that you've gotten and creating a whole video around, responses that you have to comments. And I think just generally, trying to get as much input from your audience as possible. So, some people do like, affect my storyline, or like, suggest a topic for my next episode, or just to really just draw content from their community. So I think, engagement is such a big thing that we push. It doesn't have to be just on YouTube. It certainly could be on all these other platforms. And I think what's good about YouTube is, we let you embed the YouTube player wherever you want to put it. So if you want to have a destination site, and you want to use the YouTube player, those views on your destination site will still count on YouTube. And our search engine lets other people search for your content either on YouTube or on Google. Actually, a fun fact: the first largest search engine is Google. The second largest search engine is actually YouTube in terms of just the sheer number of queries. So I think that's it. I think people are looking for content all the time. So the question becomes, how do you make your content searchable and discoverable? And that's something that we think about a lot. And a lot of that does have to do with, engaging and relating to your audience.
We have a few questions about what's the best way to release a web series and have it garner an audience. I'll give you my best answer. In terms of if this isn't a passion project for you and this is something that you want to be successful and that you want a lot of people to see, I'd say probably the most important thing to do is think about who's going to be watching this before you make it. There's a really good example of this with the series called Easy to Assemble, which is this IKEA series that's branded by IKEA and has lots of famous Hollywood stars in it that would have been successful anyway. But it was more successful because the people marketing the series went out to IKEA-specific blogs, which there are apparently a lot of, and forums beforehand, and interacted with that audience, gave them teases, gave them sneaks, just told them it was coming out, and then eventually, that in and of itself would have garnered a lot of views. And then they did a competition where the IKEA blog that generated the most views for the web series then got some type of prize. But the concept there, I think, is a really solid one. Like Jesse was talking about before, if it's two individuals who are out of work actors, you might think there's a big audience for that, but there's not. You have to get. I think one of the benefits about being online and having these niche audiences is you can really get targeted and really find people who are going to be really interested in your programming. So that would be my answer to the question: what's the best way to release a web series and have it garner an audience? Do you guys have anything to add or feel differently about any of that?
I'm gonna agree like 1,000,000% on outreach. There are two ways beyond your personal connections, which is everybody. So first is personal connections. So whoever people you know in your life, and it's always harder to get family and friends to watch your stuff than it is to get strangers, which is the weirdest thing on the planet. Second is influencers and people who have the ability to reach a larger audience. And sometimes that people don't want to do that. People don't want to have to sort of meet somebody and beg them to give them a shout out, but it's what gets exposure. But the third, and I think the most natural, best way for me and probably for Susan and for Pioneer, I would think, is outreach to blogs of very targeted what you're talking about or in the general realm of, and when anything that's like a vested interest for both parties is good. So they get content that speaks to their audience, and you get viewership via their audience. It's a great sort of joining of interests or just joining of sort of just like minds. And when you can find that, outreach is great. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I everything that we've mentioned so far, and not just blogs but sites, in Anyone But Me in that situation. AfterEllen.com is a major site for gay women, as is She Wired. And we found others, one called Autostraddle. They found us after Ellen put us on and streamed. Then people found us. Through my contacts, we also put out, during the first season, celebrity videos. We don't have celebrities in our show, but because I worked with these people, we had Zachary Quinto, who did, Spock, and a bunch of things. He did a video. The star, one of the stars of Private Practice, did a video. Liza Weil, who ended up later being a wonderful character in our show. I guess she is a celebrity, kind of. She was a star of Gilmore Girls. She did a video. And we released them, and, that helped us reach, I reached out to the Gilmore Girls fan club, which is huge, and reached out to other people, so it helped us expand our reach. And we're constantly, you just have to constantly think about that, not just in the beginning. It never stops. I mean, I get now, and you were talking about the web being forever, which is fantastic, because I get emails or people write on Twitter, I just found this show, and I stayed up all night watching every episode. And people are finding it, and so you have a responsibility, if you want that life to get out to more and more people, to just investigate all the ways.
Let me find a good one. Sorry, I had one. This one was for Susan. How many people are on your crew, and what kind of cameras do you use? What is your shooting protocol? I really like your production values and writing. That's from Donna Hauser.
Hi, Donna. Help. I don't know what kind of camera we use. Tina, we've used a different. Well, I can tell you that we used a different one for our finale and our third season, but I can't tell you what it is. What else? How many crew?
I think just the basics of how a production is put together. I mean, do you have your stuff is really well shot? What goes behind a web series that looks like that?
Okay. First of all, as I said, we do pay everyone something. The actors and the DP. We're lucky to have in our second and third season the same DP, who was wonderful, Ava Bukowski. We also have valued sound from the beginning, and that's Tina's expertise, because she is a filmmaker. And although I've worked on the staff of a television series as a writer, and we are also producers, we really, you can go down to the set, but you don't really, unless you've created the show yourself. And in this case, we have. So we have so we insist upon those qualities: the look of the show, the sound of the show. We have color correction afterwards. We had an editor. Tina also edits. We have a theme music that we use, and on several occasions have found wonderful singer-songwriters who contributed their songs. And locations that, I mean, Tina, as the director of every episode, has a great vision. And although we collaborate on that, I must give her credit for that. And we always have a crew. I mean, I can tell you it feels much bigger than it is, because part of our set is in my apartment. And several of the bedrooms and then the basement we've used, and lighting is also crucial. So if we have those people of the highest quality, then I think that's what we always strive for. So I'm glad that you appreciate it.
I think that's one end of the spectrum. And then Nick, kind of what was the setup for that clip we saw? What kind of team do you have working behind that?
That clip's a little different because that literally just needed a Canon 7D with a tripod and a sound, like a microphone. So that thing that you saw was free. That we don't pay anybody. We're actually on the other opposite of the spectrum. We're the least generous people in the business. No, but because a lot of you guys, I'm guessing, that are interested in making something are not going to have a budget, which is totally normal, and you're with the 90% of people that don't. Well, what I've always tried to find are people that are just like passionate and still need material for themselves. It's amazing if you on Craigslist or even there are millions. All right, millions is an overstatement. There are literally like thousands of people in New York City that own Canon 7Ds or Sony X, like these cameras that are affordable for them, and they want to get use out of it, and they're just dying to prove to people that they can shoot gorgeous stuff. We have this guy that is literally he does everything for free just because he wants more content. He's amazing, and there are things that he has done for us that make it look like it belongs on a major television network. So really, it's just finding the passionate people that still have something to prove and have interest or trust in you that together you can make something great.
I don't know if you get this question, but I do have to speak up here in terms of how we get the money to do this, to pay anybody. And to even have a season 3, we did what no one did before, as far as we knew, was a webathon. And we actually ended up putting out 90 minutes of free original video and airing it over 3 days as we did a campaign to raise money. We, at that time, this is 2 years ago, decided not to use some very Kickstarter, Indiegogo, which people may talk about, you might ask about, because it's important to know that. And they've become really very much part, I think, of the arts in this country because we don't get funding elsewhere. So we have to support each other. But just so that you know, we raised $33,000 towards our third and final season, which was because of the fans who did that. So we wanted sponsorship. We didn't have sponsorship, and we reached out to those people but we didn't want to reach out before that period of time because we wanted to be consistent and we wanted to prove ourselves, and we wanted people who were passionate enough to want it to go on.
And that $33,000 is a huge amount, but it's actually becoming more and more common through crowdfunding campaigns like Kickstarter and Indiegogo for people to be able to raise that kinds of funds who are creating independent programs online. One more question, then we have to wrap things up. Jane, some of the, even more so than some of these celebrity endorsements for your series or for your channel from top YouTubers can really drive a ton of subscribers. I don't want to say make or break a series or show, but put that show on the path towards make that path a lot easier than it was before. What are the best ways to kind of garner the attention or the collaboration of the top online video talent out there?
Well, I think, first of all, the first thing you guys have to do is find those people. And I think that there's a couple ways to do that, either just through, most viewed, most subscribed on YouTube. There's another site called VidStatsX, which is also a really good site for just being able to parse out a lot of data on YouTube viewers and subscribers. And so once you have your list of, the people that are in your vertical or that are doing similar types of content that you want to reach out to, there's no real easy way to get a hold of these people other than to, create an online conversation with them through your videos, through your social media. I would say that the top YouTubers get a lot of requests. They get requests not just from other content creators, but from brands, from studios, from networks. And they make a lot of money with endorsements. I think the latest stat is, and this is not just obviously not just top YouTubers, but I think we are paying six figures to at least to I think thousands of YouTubers. I don't know what the exact number is, but the stat was we're paying six figures to thousands of YouTubers, which a lot of those are the top YouTubers, and given that being the revenue amounts that we are sharing with these creators, it's hard for them to then prioritize, responding to every single content creator who wants a shout out. But certainly I think having a shout out is a huge bump to a lot of people's traffic, and I think then let's say you do get that bump, then what you really need to do is capture that, convert that into subscribers, make sure that the traffic that's coming from this other source is consistent with your message and your tone and what you want to build, because sometimes I've seen cases where somebody is shouted out another content creator that was completely different from the original content creator, and ended up getting the other content creator ended up getting a lot of dislikes on their videos, and so that's definitely something that does happen. So it's just one of the things to keep in mind when you're doing this type of outreach. So I know we're wrapping up, so I want to do one plug for the YouTube playbook, which I know people have mentioned up here a couple times. It's at youtube.com/playbook, and it's a 100-page document that basically codifies all of our best practices and tips and tricks and stuff like that. So it's a good resource for you guys to take a look at.
Just real quick, I want to jump in with just on something you said. So the thing I'd love to impart here is when you're reaching out to other YouTube people, when you're going out for money for Kickstarter, don't just do it as the first thing you do. Like, you gotta, it goes back to passion and wanting to create something good, get good at this, put the time in, and then give them a reason why they should shout you out. Give people a reason why they should donate money. I hate giving money to people and never seeing the film get made. Show them that somebody who's made 3-4 films, that you've put yourself out there. Give them a reason to love you, and there's a better chance that they will.
By the way, in our webathon, we promised that we would make as many episodes as we had money for. We told them what we needed, and we had the name of every single person, and every single penny would have gone back to them had we not fulfilled that promise. That I don't know if that's how Kickstarter works, but that's how Anyone But Me worked. And yeah, you have to build that trust. You have to be consistent, and you have to give something to get something.
So Nick, let's start with you. Let's go down the line and tell people where we can find your stuff.
Oh, sure. It's actually all over the place, but the one link would be, I think it's in, I'm guessing there's something given out, but www.HotGarbageVideo.com would be the bulk of the stuff, especially the web series driven stuff. And
that URL wasn't already taken?
Well, actually, I wanted HotGarbage.com, but we had to add video, unfortunately, to get the URL. But also, in regards to 30 Rock stuff, NBC.com/ I think 30 Rock Video, but you'll find it, I'm sure.
So I work at mydamnchannel.com, my damn channel. Does anybody here remember the name of my series at all? See how good a job I did tonight?
You're very good at
See how
this.
good? Because I said, this is part of when you're speaking to people, you're sharing, this is what you do. You don't sell it, you share it. And you share it again and again in a non-obnoxious way, and people remember you for that.
Or you just talk about how you're sharing it and not selling it for a while.
It's so true. Says the guy in the suit. So I would appreciate if people went and joined the Facebook page for Status Kill. It would be amazing, and I would really be honored to have you.
No, I was just going to thank that man in the suit because he's been a major supporter and exposer, if you will, of Anyone But Me on Tubefilter, and I just am grateful for him. What's the name of my show? Pretty good, but not maybe, I don't know. All right, so here's where you can find it. Our website is Anyone But Me Series, all one word, anyoneButMeSeries.com. That would be probably the best place to go. And then on YouTube, just put in Anyone But Me, and you can watch it on YouTube as well. So those would be the major things. We have an Anyone But Me official fan page on Facebook. And again, I don't know the exact URL, but if you just go to Facebook and enter in Anyone But Me, it would be great if you liked us. And we do put new things out, and it would just be, it's always good now to be liked on anywhere. Thanks.
I want to repeat what she said. Thanks very much, Josh. You've been very supportive of us and everything that we've done. Which is also something, just real quick, I wanted to speak to. There is a community out there of web content creators, and something we discovered along the way was we would show up to meetups and events, Tubefilter events and other events, and we would meet a lot of the same people. We've developed friendships and been able to borrow, either expertise or people's time and equipment. So so that's a valuable thing, but to do if when you're taking stock of your own resources, you find that it's kind of lacking. There is a community out there that you should become involved with. But Pioneer One is the name of the show, and pioneer1.tv is the website. One is spelled out, and but also again, the part of our second phase of building an audience was we put the show, wherever we could fit it. So it's on YouTube. If you search for Pioneer One on YouTube, and it's on Blip TV and a couple of other video sites that I'm forgetting, but yeah, that's that.
And I already did my shilling for the playbook. And thanks, Josh.
And you can read about the online video industry at tubefilter.com, tubefilter one word, and stay tuned for more info about the Streamy Awards. We're going to have some big announcements sometime soon. You can stay tuned to that at streamys.org. And thanks so much to the SAG Foundation, Stacey and everyone else. Really appreciate it. Hope this was worthwhile for you. Thanks so much.